The number one story everybody's talking about from the White House is, and it's a headline in the New York Post, Trump team accidentally added lefty editor to secret text group planning Yemeni raids.
Well, they did promise to be the most transparent White House ever, right? I guess adding a journalist to a group chat like that would be consistent with that promise. But Mike Waltz is telling people that he has no idea how this happened. He has never met Jeffrey Goldberg. He has never spoken to Jeffrey Goldberg. So if the story is that Jeffrey Goldberg is invited by Michael Waltz to this group that the NSC says is a real chat group, they looked at it. They said this is a thread that they think is all legitimate. Pete Hegseth, though, claims that there were no war plans shared. But Mike Waltz says he has no idea how this happened. And he is saying that Signal, the encrypted messaging app, is allowed at various government agencies. And we looked it up. There is guidance for highly targeted individuals to use end-to-end encrypted software like this, free apps, Signal, WhatsApp, to try to avoid being hacked.
Yeah, Roseanne and Kurt, President Donald Trump denied knowing anything about this when he was asked about it by a reporter. Now, the White House did confirm the Atlantic article about this apparently accidental leak. In the article, the magazine's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, says that on March 11th, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz invited him to join an encrypted group chat on the messaging app Signal that included the vice president and defense secretary, centered around the upcoming bombing campaign against the Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen. Goldberg initially thought his inclusion in the group chat could be a scam, but he says he soon learned it was real. According to his account, 4 days later, so on Saturday, March 15th, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth texted the war plan, including weapons packages, targets, and timing. Hegseth said in the chat that the first bombs would start falling in Yemen about 2 hours later. Goldberg says, sure enough, he searched X, and explosions could be heard in the capital of Yemen right when Hegseth had said they would start.
A war plan on a messaging app and didn't even know who was invited into the conversation.
If these detailed exchanges about coordinating military operations fell into the hands of America's enemies, it could get people killed.
One question. Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in The Atlantic? And were those details classified?
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does. I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign because of the skill and courage of our troops. I've monitored it very closely from the beginning. And you see, we've been managing 4 years of deferred maintenance under the Trump administration. Our troops, our sailors were getting shot at as targets. Our ships couldn't sail through. And when they did shoot back, it was purely defensively or at shacks in Yemen. President Trump said, no more. We will reestablish deterrence. We will open freedom of navigation, and we will ultimately decimate the Houthis, which is exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning, overwhelmingly.
Why were those details shared on Signal, and how did you learn that a journalist was privy to the targets, the types of weapons used?
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
So it's a fabricated story. I just made a video about a message to all journalists. And now we're hearing that there's a journalist that so-called leaked military plans. I want to know who the hell it is. Okay, so Jeffrey Goldberg, U.S. national security leaders, included me in a group chat about upcoming military strikes in Yemen. I didn't think it could be real. Then the bombs started falling. The world found out shortly after 2 p.m. Eastern Time, March 15, that the United States was bombing Houthi targets across Yemen. I, however, knew 2 hours before the first bombs exploded that the attack might be coming. The reason I knew this is that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, had texted me the war plans at 11:44 a.m. The plan including precise information about weapons, packages, targets, and timing. This is going to require some explaining.
Much larger, something much more systematic, right? So when you have people, I think, that are not qualified to be in roles and taking on these things, but also kind of not qualified in terms of competence and knowing how things work, knowing how should we be using, what kinds of systems should we be using, what are the protocols? There are all kinds of questions that those arise. There is a larger issue too of accountability. How are we going to deal with this? It's not something that should just go away in the news cycle tomorrow. It is something that should be investigated. It should be investigated with oversight. And I have the real question I think we should be thinking about is who is doing the investigating of the investigators? Right? So the Trump White House says, we'll take care of it. But the problem is, in lots and lots of these cases, there have been independent investigations. There have been congressional investigations, including on both sides of the aisle. But there have also been inspectors general's investigations, right? This is how you pinpoint the problem. What do you do when those options are gone? When the Trump administration has removed them? You can't continue to say, well, this is just carelessness, this is just an accident. Because one time.
Okay, well, President Biden did the last 4 years. That's exactly what he did. I didn't hear you, Leah, say a damn thing about the Biden administration when they were doing so many crooked things throughout the entire 4 years. How about the cocaine that was found in the White House that was only investigated for 1 week? I didn't hear this lady say a damn thing about it. It's only when it's the Republicans' term, now they want to be out there in the public, in the news, and start just talking about the Republicans. I didn't hear them say that about their own party.
Notice the group name was Houthis PC Group. PC, people who don't know, stands for Principals Committee. In the White House, you have staff level meetings, you have deputy level meetings, and then you have Principals Committee meetings. In order to be eligible to be in a Principals Committee meeting, you have to be secretary level or above. So as mentioned, this is a systemic thing where this is the most senior people in our administration who are being careless with information and classified data. And surely it's not the first time that they have done this. And I think the most important thing about this particular case that people should understand is that this was not just a drone strike, although that would be very, very concerning regardless of that. But this was a manned mission. There were human lives on the line for this mission. So the fact that this could have fallen into wrong hands because of this carelessness would have potentially impacted the lives of American soldiers.
But I totally agree with you because they're not quite sure how he wound up on the thing. And we need to find that out if there's something wrong with this system, which, by the way, I should just add again, they say already existed, was preloaded on computers and devices when they got there and was in use upon their arrival. So maybe we needed an investigation of when signals started being used and by who and why people thought it was a good system to use. But of course, when you make a mistake, you own up to it, you investigate the cause of it.
Did Pete Hegseth just own up to it, admit to it?
Well, look, I don't think there's, the White House has admitted.
I think the answer there is no, right?
The head of the National Security Council and his spokesman have said these appear to be authentic messages, so they have absolutely validated that it occurred. So you own up to it, you figure out what happened, and you use it as a teachable moment, which is don't make these kinds of mistakes again, and you learn from it. And I agree, you do try to move forward. But I agree with you. You have to look into these things. You can't slough it off. It's an important deal.
I don't know what the hell's going on here. Accidentally texting war plans and somehow including a journalist that should never even have been part of the group texts. This is very interesting. The American people are probably wondering and questioning this now. Was it intentional to include that journalist? Was it not supposed to go to him? I mean, we don't know entirely. Pete Hegseth came out and said, no, there was no plans, there's no war plans, including any text message. But it's already been proven, supposedly, that those texts exist. So we're going to still see the ongoing investigation into this and see what's going on. They need to use a better encryption application to communicate with each other in the government, because it's so easy for people to hack. And if we have the wrong people or the enemy hacking our, applications, they're going to find out plans we have in doing things that are supposed to be in secrecy. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like and subscribe. I would appreciate it. Till next time. Peace out, everybody.